That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Alright guys, y'all love the top 10 running backs for Dynasty Fantasy Football video. So now let's jump into the wide receivers. But I want to remind everyone, this is Dynasty Fantasy Football. This is where you draft your team and you have that team year over year over year over year. You draft rookies and scout them as they come into the NFL. You make trades throughout the offseason just like you're a real life NFL team. So yes, these are going to be drastically different than our wide receiver rankings in 2020 because you really need to take into consideration their age. You need to take into consideration their contract status. So yeah, it's going to look completely different. If you're a redraft player, please don't take this list and go out there and try to implement it in your own regular redraft league where you draft a new team every single season because it's going to be drastically different. And also guys, yes, I know a ton of people have been wanting to get into our Dynasty leagues. We are going to be opening up more spots and more leagues as soon as we get done with the fantasy football season. So when we're in the NFL playoffs, I will be hosting new Dynasty Fantasy Football startups. That way you can go in there, you can draft your team. We'll have the rookie draft this offseason. We'll be able to make trades throughout the entire offseason. You'll follow free agency. It'll be a ton of fun. I'll leave the link down in the comments below if you want to join a Dynasty Fantasy Football League. All right, well, now let's get into it, and let's talk about our top 10 Dynasty wide receivers. And let's start it off at number 1 with DK Metcalf. Now, I know this is going to be so surprising, and this is going to be very controversial, where if you don't agree with this, let me know why. Go down to the comments. But right now, I am looking at DK Metcalf as currently a wide receiver 1 in 2020 fantasy football during his second season. And what we love about DK Metcalf is he came into the NFL really advertised as a raw player. I mean, he was sold as someone that could not run the entire route tree, but he had the athletic ability where if he was able to put it together, he could turn into the best wide receiver in the entire NFL. And I think we can make the argument that he is on his way to doing so. And on top of that, we know that Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf are tied together for the next 5 or so years. So really, there's no concern about his overall situation changing. He is going to be playing with one of the best quarterbacks in the entire NFL as he continues to progress through his routes. He has an athletic profile that cannot be matched by any other player in the entire NFL, maybe outside of Chase Claypool. So here, I think I mean, you can make an argument for a couple players at this number 1 spot, but we are going to be going with DK Metcalf. All right, now coming in here at number 2, we are actually going to go with DK Metcalf's college teammate in A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown was a wide receiver that I was actually a little bit lower on than most coming into the season, just because you looked at the projections for what he was going to get in the Tennessee Titans passing offense, and really the volume was not supposed to be there. He was not supposed to be seeing 8 to 10 targets a game, no, and then really if you are not getting that type of volume, it's very hard for you to live off of efficiency year over year over year. But A.J. Brown in 2019 was the most efficient wide receiver in the entire NFL in his rookie season. And he came out in his sophomore year and is continuing with that elite level of efficiency. Really, you look at his college profile, you really understand that with playing with DK Metcalf at Ole Miss, I think we can safely assume that A.J. Brown would have had even better numbers if he was at a college by himself with what he's been able to accomplish the first 2 seasons and the fact that he's tied to Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill looks like he is clearly an above average quarterback at the NFL level, still extremely young with room to improve. I think you have to go with A.J. Brown here at the number 2 spot. All right, now coming in here at number 3, this is a wide receiver that's a lot older than the first 2 options, which is why he's behind them. Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, not a lot to talk about here. Clearly that elite athlete playing with the best quarterback in the entire NFL. With Tyreek Hill, we are going to have to monitor him as he gets older. I'm a little bit concerned that maybe he's a player like T.Y. Hilton that exclusively wins off of his speed. And once the speed is gone, maybe we see him drastically fall off a cliff and not necessarily be able to maintain that level of production until very late in his NFL career like a Larry Fitzgerald. But regardless, over the next 3 seasons, you should be getting top 10 production from Tyreek Hill, if not top 5 production. So here we are going to have them in at wide receiver 3. Now, Davante Adams coming in at wide receiver 4. This is for a couple reasons, honestly. One, I think that this Green Bay Packers offense could bring in a very strong second wide receiver in the 2021 NFL draft class, as really Davante Adams has been thriving in fantasy football, getting 30% of his team's targets year over year over year. Now, I think Davante Adams is one of the most talented wide receivers in the entire NFL, but it is going to be a little bit worrisome for him to have that #1 overall season if they do decide to bring in a second top option. But here with Davante Adams, he's also 28 years old, so that is going to cap his overall dynasty value, knowing that you're probably only going to get 2 to 3 years of that elite level production before he dips off. So that's why we are going to have Davante Adams behind players like A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf, where we're expecting that top end wide receiver 1 production over the next 5 seasons. Now, coming in here at wide receiver 5, we are going to have our first rookie wide receiver. I know I'm going to get so much hate for this. I don't care. Justin Jefferson. Y'all know I have the biggest man crush ever on Justin Jefferson. Currently the most efficient wide receiver in the entire NFL in terms of his fantasy points per target, in terms of his fantasy points per route run. And if you take a step back and you look at what he's been able to accomplish in 2020 throughout the entire NFL history, Justin Jefferson is actually the most efficient rookie wide receiver we have ever seen. And that is in a list with a bunch of rookies that were coming into the NFL at 23, 24 years old, where they should have been a lot more developed and a lot better than Justin Jefferson at this point in his NFL career, because he was the second youngest wide receiver in the 2020 NFL draft, I believe. So here with Justin Jefferson, he has a ton of room to improve. 21 years old, he's younger than I am, and he's putting up this type of season. He should easily start taking targets away from Adam Thielen as early as 2021. Gonna have to have Justin Jefferson up here in the top 5. Now, coming in here at 6, we are going to have DJ Moore. Now, I know DJ Moore has been very disappointing so far in 2020 compared to where a lot of people thought he was going to produce, but that was based on the fact that we've seen Robbie Anderson and Curtis Samuel both be able to grab decent target shares in this offense. But Curtis Samuel is on his last year of his rookie deal, where I'm not expecting this offense to bring back Curtis Samuel, as they have McCaffrey on a very expensive contract. They have Robbie Anderson tied up in 2021, and I think they are going to prioritize DJ Moore. DJ Moore is still only 23 years old. I know that's crazy because it seems like we've been talking about him forever now, but he just came into the NFL at such a young age, where clearly I think that we are going to expect him to be at the top of the game for a while now, and it's very appealing seeing him change his role as the season goes on. All right, so now coming in here at wide receiver 7, we are going to have Calvin Ridley. I know Calvin Ridley has been so hot so far in 2020 when he's been fully healthy. It's been very frustrating, though, looking at the injuries that we've seen to this overall Atlanta Falcons offense. With Ridley, really, he shows us exactly what we wanted to see in 2020, where he's starting to take over as the wide receiver 1 for the Atlanta Falcons as Julio Jones kind of fades into the back a little bit. I think starting as early as 2021, Calvin Ridley is going to be that full-on wide receiver 1 for the Atlanta Falcons, already producing as a wide receiver 1 in fantasy football, was recently drafted in the 2018 NFL draft class. A lot of reasons to be excited about Calvin Ridley. All right, now coming in here at wide receiver 8, we are going to have Chris Godwin. You can make the argument for Chris Godwin being higher, as Chris Godwin is very similar to a player like DJ Moore, where he's still extremely young in his NFL career. The one thing is, we don't know what the quarterback play is going to look like for Chris Godwin in 2021, even if it's still Tom Brady. I mean, what are we going to be expecting from Tom Brady's arm strength going into 2021? I think that's a big question mark. He has the talent, but he's tied up with Mike Evans. On top of that, the quarterback situation is uncertain, so I think we are going to have Chris Godwin down here at wide receiver 8. Now, coming in here at wide receiver 9, clearly a win now piece, where if you are a contender, you're going to be valuing him a lot higher than this. We are going to have DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins is turning 29 this offseason, so I think this is about the time where he starts to fall down fantasy rankings, even as he still produces as a top option. And I will say, we are not as concerned with DeAndre Hopkins as we would be with a Tyreek Hill in terms of transitioning his game in his early 30s to possibly playing a little bit more closer to the line of scrimmage, really just winning at the catch point, because that is DeAndre Hopkins' strength. He doesn't really have to win with an elite athletic profile. So I think Hopkins is a player that can play play for the next 5 years. I don't think he's going to give us that elite production we're used to seeing. But here, it's hard to put DeAndre Hopkins outside the top 10, even with his age. Now, coming in here at wide receiver 10, one of the most impressive wide receivers I think we've seen this season, given his quarterback play. On top of that, a wide receiver that I was so wrong about, Terry McLaurin. Guys, Terry McLaurin literally just dominating the target share in Washington week over week over week. He's seeing 30% of this team's targets. Yes, they're very low value targets because of the offense that he's playing in, but if this team can go out there and address the quarterback situation, I don't think we've come close to seeing what Terry McLaurin's true upside is. I will say he's going to be way down here at 10 compared to a DK Metcalf and an AJ Brown, who were drafted in the same class up there at 1 and 2 because of his quarterback play. And also, Terry McLaurin actually came into the NFL at a much older age than these other wide receivers. I mean, he is currently older than Chris Godwin, currently older than Juju Smith-Schuster. So yeah, I mean, he's still not a player that has that room to progress, in my opinion, like a DK Metcalf and an AJ Brown. But I think if he does get that quarterback play, we could see his production go up. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. And go down to the comment section. Let me know who I missed. Let me know who should have been on this list and why, and who you would take off. Now, yeah, thank you. Really hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I will see y'all with the video tomorrow.